Are you about to take on your first B2B commercial type client and you're not sure exactly what to expect? I got you. There's a few things that are done different for business photos than there is for private commission clients. So stay tuned. Monique here of Silverpaw Studio in Silverpaw Studio right now and founder of ProPetPhotog. I am a full-time pet and people photographer and videographer, and I got some ideas for you on what it's like to work with a commercial or business-to-business client. Now, if you saw my other video talking about why I really think that you should add business portrait type headshots to your pet photography business, I did warn you that there are some things that are done differently. So be prepared for these things because they can seem frustrating, but they're totally normal, okay? So I just want you to be prepared when you're so excited to take these commercial and B2B clients, especially for like headshots and different images that these clients need, that things are done different in this world, okay? All right, so a lot of who I work with are pet-based businesses because I'm a pet and people photographer, right? And even at that though, many of them are larger companies. They're maybe partly owned by maybe a corporation, things like that, or they just have a large board. So things just go through a different system than we're used to with our private commission clients. So with private commission, we pretty much say, like, this is when we're gonna pay, this is when all this is how everything happens. When you work with a business, they have to have their systems in place. So here we go. Here's my tips for working with businesses, okay? When you say, okay, I have you on the schedule for 1 o'clock for your staff portraits. You do not show up at 1 o'clock. You have everything set up and ready and camera, lights, everything ready to go at 1 o'clock. So you need to be there half hour, hour before, depending on how much gear and everything you need to set up. Okay? Because what happens is, if you say, great, 1 o'clock, they will be standing next to you. We're ready. Okay, we're ready. Can you take our picture now? And you've got nothing set up. They don't know the difference. This happens a lot. So be warned that when you say you're going to be there at 1, you're going to be there at 12. You're going to be there early, even if you have to sit around a little bit until you get to know what it's like to work with this client. That's what you need to do. When you say the session starts, that's when it starts. Your camera better be ready. All right, so that's one of the differences. And kind of going along with that is often the staff will be hurried or flustered. So this is a small portion of their day. They're busy doing their normal activities, especially if you're at somewhere with a lot going on, like a veterinary hospital. There is just so much going on and they have just enough time to come in with their dog, get their picture taken. They may not even want to be there, so you have to just really reassure them. Tell them their dog's doing great. They look awesome. You need to really pump yourself up to get people excited for these because they might be flustered, they might be in a hurry, and you really need to know you got to get your shot ready right then. So be prepared for that as well. Billing. Billing can often take a month. So you need to be able to set this up ahead of time and have expectations of how long is it going to take until you're paid? Because often you send the invoice and then they send it off to somebody else and they approve it and then they mail you a check, or maybe they'll pay online. They have different ways that they pay and different time frames they pay everything in. So it might be a net 30, 60, 45, and you can negotiate this to an extent, but you need to know ahead of time so you don't get freaked out going, oh my gosh, I delivered all of this and I haven't gotten anything. Now, if it's a big job, if you're doing, I would say over $1,000, I would often ask for a deposit if it's a brand new client. And I do this with video clients. Often those are $3,000 or more. They have to pay a portion of that up front, maybe half of it. If it's an ongoing business portrait client, you'll just get into the swing of things. You'll come in for the photo session, you will deliver everything, and you'll get payment about a month later. So you need to know that going in, that businesses pay on a different schedule. You need to scout your locations for your photos ahead of time. And again, we're talking about like staff pictures right here. You need to know what you're doing. So if you can, and usually you can, say, hey, I'd like to come in ahead of time. This could be weeks ahead of time or days ahead of time, doesn't matter. Come in and take a look around. Know what you're doing and where exactly you're gonna set up and how much space you need. Because like I have one place and I know that room is 7 feet wide and 10 feet long. It's super small. And I had to actually make a backdrop stand special for that area. There's no way my big backdrop system, even at its smallest setting, could have fit in there. So you really have to scout out your locations. With that in mind, another tip is they will often give you the worst location in the building. They'll be like, hey, I think that our conference room will work. And the conference room has a giant table bolted to the floor in the middle. And there is 3 feet of room between the table and the wall if you move all the chairs and the coffee cart. Okay? So you need to look around because they cannot see the area that you see. They can't see it. So you need to know ahead of time because oftentimes you're doing these during regular office hours. This is during hours, so you can't just take over any space possible. If they're willing to do it after hours, that's a different story, but not common at all, because then they have to pay their staff to be there. So you need to scout this ahead of time because they're just going to give you any space that they think will work. Now, sometimes this works out, but a lot of times it doesn't. So just scout it out ahead of time. You will often find that a hall that looks terrible to them, once you light it and set everything up, looks amazing. Or the back patio, or this corner, or maybe just the front desk, and you're going to hop in there between clients. Whatever it is, you need to know the setup ahead of time, and it's often not where your client thinks it's going to be. With that in mind, you also need to have a place set aside for group or team photos. Oftentimes they'll throw that in at the end. Oh, I thought we said we're going to take these 5 people's pictures too. Oh, okay. Well, we only have a foot of space. So now what? So you need to make sure you have a space for the team picture too. And again, you should be negotiating this ahead of time. You should know if you're doing group pictures, but sometimes they don't realize one of the team members is actually going to be able to be there. And so the last second, that last, technician, surgery tech is able to be there. And oh my gosh, we can get the whole surgery tech team in. You need to have a place in mind. So one place I've done pictures is in the parking lot. So the parking lot of one of my clients has this grassy area with some trees, and it has electric boxes and different things, but it had just enough space to do their entire team within these trees in the middle of the parking lot, with careful positioning of cameras and people to block out anything else. So know where you're going to take team or group photos. Okay, these tips are really in no particular order again, but if you're liking them, boop, I would love a thumbs up on here. That would be fantastic. We do have a few more to go though, okay? So stick with me. The next one is be sure to be very clear about what you're offering. Now, if you're going in there to do staff portraits, headshots, let them know what comes with that. Is it 1 image? Is it 2 images? Is it high res, low res, watermarked? It shouldn't be watermarked. Just so you know, on business to business, your digital images are not watermarked. Do they get a certain rights to those? What all do they get? Any prints, any team pictures? I have my team pictures, the group images, priced separately from my individual images. So you need to be very clear on exactly what is offered, including like how it's delivered. So just make sure that you're very clear on exactly what you're offering during this session. Double check on dress code. So again, I'm just going to keep going back to the veterinary office idea, but this works anywhere. So if you're in any kind of situation like this, are they supposed to be wearing their scrubs? Do doctors wear their lab coats? Do they want name tags on or name tags off? How about lanyards? What all do they want for consistency in these photos? And that applies to any kind of pictures you're taking for a business. What do they want and not want in these? What do they want included or not included? They want this cohesive look to any photos that you take. So make sure you know that too. And with that in mind, make sure you bring a mirror. I have a hand mirror, and so I can hold this up to people and say, is this how you would like your hair, your necklace, anything like that to look? And then they can do last minute adjustments. Always have a mirror there. I always, of course, bring treats for their pets because I always take staff pictures with their pets. Bring treats, bring noisemakers and toys and all kinds of things. Well, actually, often a lot of these places have treats, but ask if you can. All the different noisemakers and attention grabbers and, you know, like a little paper towels and things like that for dog drool, things like that, and a lint roller then along with that mirror. So remember, you're taking pictures of people too. I'm sure I can go on and on and on. So if you have questions, type them in the comments because I know I have a bunch more that I can add in here. But the last one is be very clear on the delivery method and date. Now, oftentimes I have a very fast turnaround on these. And so I'll say, okay, well, it's Wednesday now, by Friday, or even by Thursday. If there's only like 3 to 5 staff members I'm photographing that day, and maybe I photographed them in that same location, same lighting before, and I don't have another client meeting afterwards, I know I can just get to my computer and get them edited and get them off to them, and then I can bill them. So always be very, very clear on delivery date and method. At this point, just everything goes on a pixie set gallery for them. Now, for these, I put them in a proofing gallery with my watermark. They choose the ones they like, and then I change the gallery to be downloadable with no watermark on the ones that they chose. Very, very easy process. They just make a favorites folder. Super easy. But maybe they need a USB stick. Now, when I do video client work, I always make sure I give them a USB of that video as well, because oftentimes they'll just like put it on the shelf. They won't need it often. Like maybe they'll put it on the website once, and then 2 years later, when they go to redo their website, they don't remember where they've put the digital of that, right? So I give them a USB stick. Just be really clear on how you're going to deliver these images and exactly when. Whew! All right. That was 10 things. That was 10 things that you really need to know if you do business to business, business portraits, or really any kind of photography for them, like we talked about in the last video. So these are just some ideas. If you have more, or if you have questions, I can make a follow-up video. This is really a great way to add to your pet photography offerings. There's so much. This is so good, but they're definitely do things different at businesses. And so I don't want you to be caught off guard. You want to be professional and go in there with your very first client as if they're not your first client. All right, I hope that was helpful. And if you haven't watched the first video about why you should be doing this, watch it here. A lot of cool reasons why, of course. And as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs.